pulling energy. The real witches, what they're doing is pulling energy. Like witchcraft and Satanism and how it works, you get to understand or comprehend how it is the beast controls the society and thus our people. There's no spooks, there's no spirits, there's no superstition. I want to take all the superstitious, spooked out nonsense off of it, much like religion. Everything is meant to mystify you and make things, confusing, unclear to you. How it is just people who are vying for power, just as the beast vies for power in his society and makes sure he maintains power and control. The star, the 5-pointed star, or what they call the pentagram or the ram's head, that is the same pentagram that controls this society. The 5 P's goes back to that again. That is a spell. That is a program over the people, governing them by those 5 P's or the 5 points of that 5-pointed star, which represents the 5th dimension, also represents the universe. Your witches, your people of higher intelligence realize that all true power comes from the universe. All these things that your so-called witches do, your real witches, what they're doing is pulling energy. They're pulling intelligence. They're pulling an intelligence into the atmosphere, into this atmosphere, which is why when you see the 5-pointed star, you see the symbolism or the symbol of the witch as the 5-pointed star, or what they call the goat's head, or the ram's head, or whatever. And you see the circle around it. The circle represents an entrapment of that power in the planet. That's why they draw the star inside of a circle, trapping that power inside the planet. Satan, as they talk about, said was the sacred 10, or these people, these men on the planet, the elite who rule the planet. And they have constantly been vying for control of that power from outside this world into the universe. They know that it's streaming into the atmosphere, like I said, which is why they have their satellites up. They do rituals, everything to pull in this power. They govern people and they keep control. The ultimate goal of the covens, the government, everything is to keep control, to keep power. What is a craft? A craft is something that carries, as in a spacecraft, witchcraft, spacecraft, the craft of Freemason. Crafts are used to carry something. So when they say craft or witchcraft, they're talking about a carrying of something. The craft carries something. What does the craft carry? Power. How does the craft carry power? They carry power as a collective, as a group, as one mental force. They pull in all of these things in witchcraft. They pull in their power from the universe. These things that they do as a collective mental force. Notice your witches wear black. They wear black to signify the universe, to signify that they are the stars in the universe. That's why they have the star and the black and all this other stuff. It represents them being cloaked in the universe as stars, as bright lights, those lights in the darkness. Why does the witches wear the ankh? A lot of you might see a lot of witches wear ankhs, the Egyptian ankh, the ancient Kemetic ankh. They wear the ancient Kemetic ankh because your ancient Kemites and ancient Nubians were your first witches. Our people were the first, they call it witches, but our people were the first ones who were pulling power. They were the first ones pulling power from out of the universe. So, as the beast understood that power was being generated in the universe and being sent into this atmosphere, and that certain people were pulling in that power, they wanted to do the same thing. That certain people were sitting in circles and sitting in private covenants or covens. They wanted to do the same thing, because that's what our people was doing in ancient Egypt and Nubia, Sumeria. They was doing the same thing. You understand that? So what happened was these people wanted to copy it. You look at the witch's hat. The witch's hat, if you look at the top of it, it's a pyramid. And the circle around it represents the planet. They sit in circles to represent the planet of locking in the power so that the power doesn't get out, right, as they're pulling it in. It's a mental force. These people are doing nothing but jacking power. It should be called switchcraft because they're switching off frequency. That's all. Like AC and DC, that's what they're doing. They're switching off current that's supposed to be going to our people. So he also goes into working that craft against the black race, because in order to work that craft against the black race, you have to compress them. The natural drawers of that energy, you have to compress them down so that you can receive it. You have to distract them so that they can receive the power. While they're distracting you with things like religion, they're distracting you with things like they create these lesser mysteries. When you see, they show you the image of the witch flying on the broom. What does the broom represent? The broom represents a sweeping of something. And they also tell you that the broom is, when they showed you the women flying on the brooms, that was them copying the image of the almond beings flying in the air. You understand? Because, like I said, when they saw the almond beings, or our people back in ancient Egypt, they saw these people taking flight. They saw the men and the women flying in the air. So when they made the statues, they made the statues with the women with wings, and people thought that they had real wings. It wasn't that they had real physical wings. It's that they saw these people flying, and that's the only way they can think to describe it. They understood levitation. Same way, what is the witches do? That guy, like I said, Chris Angel, and he's doing levitation. Now, he's always dressed in black. He's a witch. Chris Angel's a witch. His whole family, they dye their hair black. You understand? They wearing ankhs. So what is that telling you where your witchcraft really comes from? That comes from us. They just call it witchcraft. It comes right from us. It's nothing but them channeling our power. It's basically them trying to step in as us. That's all. And they're tuning into Amen. You understand? The true and living God. That's all they're doing. But whenever the beast does something, he always does it in reverse and backwards. You understand? It always takes on a primitive connotation. You know, they don't want anybody drawing in that power and that energy. They don't want all people sitting and drawing in that power. So they rather you be in Islam, Christianity, Judaism. They rather you be there where they can control you mentally and keep you separated, rather than to focus on drawing in that power. That's done purposely. They don't want anybody drawing in that energy.